Hello, everyone. This is your host, Gemma Putty, bringing health and wellness conversations from North Idaho and across this region. I'm so excited to chat with entrepreneurs, creatives, and believers as we journey together to connect more deeply to ourselves, our earth, and our communities. Cheers to shining bright and supporting local. Hello, everyone. This is Gemma Putty. I'm so excited to start my podcast adventures, my video adventures off today with Brittney Prendergast. She is the founder of Holistic Wellness Coaching Academy, which I was participated in. She trains and certifies coaches and wellness professionals in holistic gut health and mindset strategy. And she's the author of 2 books. This first one, which is pretty fabulous, it is Buddha Belly, a mind, body, soul approach to health, starting with your gut, the key. And then her second book that came out recently is My Epic Year, Rising from the Ashes. So Britt, welcome. Thanks for joining me today. Is there anything I missed in that intro that you want to add?
Nope, except for that Gemma is one of HWCA's mentors. If you left that part out, so she now helps lead some of the coaches through their own coaching journey and all that too. So that's a key detail. You're mildly important to our school.
Yeah, well, and then you started my whole journey. It was back in 2017 when I had just moved to Coeur d'Alene, and you were having your presentation on the mind-gut connection. And you tell this story a lot, but I think we both went into that. You were presenting, and then I attended, not really knowing how many people would be there. And you had the hugest turnout. You were kind of talking about your book. And I think it just shows that this interest that we're all starting to realize that it's really the gut is this common theme, and not all of these fad diets, but how are we really just addressing the gut? So I really just want to start with how gut health became a part of your journey. I know you're an entrepreneur through and through and have had lots of business ventures in your life, but can you talk a little bit about how gut health really came into your life?
Yeah. So while I love business, and it's definitely my gift and the main thing I work on with the coaches anymore, gut health it's a passion focus, unlike a lot of business ventures I had. I didn't get into gut health because it looked like a lucrative industry, it just so happened to be a good time for it. But I grew up with severe anxiety and some depression as early as age 4, as far as I could remember. Chronic issues with stuff like that. I was very overweight. Once I would hit my 20s, I couldn't conceive. I mean, it took me over a year at only 24 to get pregnant with my first baby. And then I miscarried, and then, got pregnant, and then, a second miscarriage later at 10 weeks. So there's a lot of things that as I studied and kind of looked into my health and my nutrition and the things I was doing, I really started thinking that, this is hormonal. So what can I do to really help my hormones, especially being female? It's so rampant now. And so through that journey though, it wasn't until my second son, so I was probably like 29 at the time, that I decided to get rid of my brick and mortar businesses or business at the time and pursue my passion, which had been health and wellness and holistic health. But so I got certified, and then I pursued it deeper. So my focus was going to be hormones and female hormones. And through that research and kind of taking that route, it led me actually to gut health, because I realized that the gut is the epicenter of all these different things in the body. And like you say, we get so caught up in fad diets and stuff. But the problem is if we don't understand how specific foods, specific diets, and specific things are reacting and affecting our individual bodies, then there isn't a one size fits all. You can't just try diet type, and you have to be able to understand what it's actually doing in your body, even if it works for you. Even if you think, oh, I'm losing weight, I'm doing these things, it could be also having a lot of side effects that we're pushing aside and we're ignoring because we got abs showing up. So I really got into it with that. I wanted to share it with the world because I had found so much healing for mental health and anxiety and depression and fertility and all of that stuff. So I just wrote the book long before I really knew what I was going to do with it. And then it turned into a course, which turned into the whole school, which has turned into what we do now.
Yeah, it's amazing how you kind of get on those paths and they just unravel like it's meant to be. And I'm sure, I mean, we talk even physically, but will you talk a little bit about that mind gut connection and just really, I mean, our gut is the center of our immunity is what they're figuring out, right? They have figured out. And then that through that vagus nerve, then connecting to our brain and being the second brain. Will you discuss that concept a little bit for us, Britt?
Yeah. So, like I said, we say the gut is the epicenter of the body, but to specifically start referencing what some of those things are, your gut is responsible for producing 90% of your serotonin, 90% of your dopamine, which is the majority of your happy hormones. These are the things that when people go seek antidepressants for depression or issues with anxiety, hyperactivity, all these things, they're trying to simulate these hormones through these synthetic drugs and chemicals with prescriptions. These are things that are supposed to be made in the gut. And so your body really knows how to manufacture those things. And if it's not right, it's not manufacturing those things. So it's giving a lot of insight into this area. But also, the communication pathway between the brain and the gut is amazing. So we haven't said first, which really comes first, the chicken or the egg. Our thoughts and our stress and our brain chemistry can send signals to our gut. It can withhold blood and functionality to the gut, starving the bacteria in the gut and really causing a lot of issues. That's why if you're really nervous or excited or something, you'll be like, oh my gosh, I have a nervous tummy or something, because it's such a pathway. Vice versa, if our gut is kind of jacked up, it's going to send stress signals up through that same nerve, and it's going to cause inflammation in the brain. It's going to cause a stress response in the brain. So like you said too, it's also the center of majority of our immune system resides in our gut. So the same thing, all these things that we need good mental health, we need good mood, we need energy, and then we need obviously an immune system, especially anymore. The gut is responsible for cultivating so many of these things, and yet it's such an misunderstood. It's just now, people are just now starting to hear gut health, and product companies are running to that every day. Not that that's bad, but there's so much more to our gut health, which is our entire body's well-being, than just simple products. Or it's not simple. It's actually very complex.
And that's it. I think there's so many things now we see that there's a lot of buzzwords, like with anything new that comes out, right? It's like probiotics and microbiome, and they throw it onto their packaging, but really probiotics can be great and can hold a place for creating that good bacteria. But at the same time, it really is coming down to like how we're treating our bodies, what we're putting on our skins, what we're putting specifically, of course, the real food or not real food that we're putting into our guts, right? Because you just touched on it right there, between mental health, fertility, hormones, and gut issues in general. There's so many nowadays that we're hearing about, but what are we putting into our bodies when we look at like mass culture and looking at the foods that are really being pushed towards us? It's like packaged, it's processed. Yeah, it's natural. What does that mean? I've kind of started to rephrase things as nature intended. Nature didn't intend for us to pull these pieces apart and then take the flavor and add it to something else, right? Because of course that is all playing in to our health in general, and specifically that gut health. So if people are listening right now and they're questioning, oh, well, how do I know if my gut health is like out of whack, or what would you say are some symptoms that they should really, like those kind of key things that they should consider?
Well, first off, if you're in an industrialized culture like the US, there's a good chance the majority of people have some form of gut dysbiosis or a leaky gut, right? Some form of issue with their gut that needs some help, because we are around so many chemicals and, like you said, artificial food as food, antibiotics, et cetera, et cetera. But what people often don't realize is that they associate gut health to digestive function. So it like IBS symptoms, or, their bathroom habits, or a stomach ache, or maybe acid reflux. They're not, they're not associated to the multiple other ways that it shows up, like hormone malfunction, like skin conditions, mental health fluctuations, anxiety, depression, sleep issues are rampant. They're very connected to the gut. So a lot of that stuff, the gut will, like I said, that's why we consider it this focal point that is just so important to put energy into, because it affects so many other things. And while people think, oh, I have maybe this issue or that issue or that issue, and they're overwhelmed thinking they have 100 issues, what's interesting is if we were to focus on this one area of the body in an intelligent, multifaceted, holistic way, then we can really tackle the entirety of these symptoms. It doesn't feel like 40 different ailments, conditions, and situations. It's one thing where all these symptoms can start to alleviate.
Yeah, for sure. And I think as I'm establishing my coaching, I'm really seeing that it's like focusing on the gut and the spirit, right? Like both of them are internal. Like if your spirit's off or you're unaligned in that way, or if your gut is, there's both of those seem like those key pieces to a multitude. Like you're saying, if those are out of whack, then everything is like gonna just be whirlwinding, I guess. So
Yeah.
being able to have, and that to me, that's so reassuring to be like, okay, we can come back to two things and start there. And then everything else will kind of take shape and clean itself up if you focus specifically on that gut health and on your spirit. So in your journey specifically, as you were trying to clean up your gut, and how did you even start? I mean, when people are saying, what do I even do? Where do I just go to Pilgrims or your local health store and just buy probiotics and a bunch of veg? Like, what would you say to them in that space?
Well, one, I love the fish tank analogy, is how I try and describe the gut, is that your microbiome, which is another word for your gut, is full of a bunch of little microorganisms, and bacteria that are necessary. They're different kinds, they have different jobs, they have different purposes. And if they get imbalanced, then we have issues. There's some that are bad if they get into a state of overgrowth, but they're not bad in a controlled, smaller quantity that they're supposed to stay in. But it's a fish tank, right? So if you put all your fish in your fish tank and you don't have too many predatorial fish, they're kept in check by the bigger fish. And so you can have a couple of those and you've got all your fish in there. You still have to feed the fish. You have to change the water. You have to so probiotics are essentially putting fish into the tank, which is great. But if you're not taking care of the fish you put in the tank, then what's the point of you're going to keep buying fish and you're going to keep putting them in the tank. Whereas when you nourish and nurture the fish that are in the tank, you're going to have a good ecosystem in there. So that's how the body is. So to start, like I said, a lot of us supplement with probiotics because we just do not have a lot of these organisms in our environment, in our soil, like we used to. We've done a lot of things to degrade our own microbiome and kill a lot of our own bacteria in our lifetimes and in our, our modern society. And so probiotics are still, they can be a really great place to start. They're not for everyone. That's why it's good to work with a coach or someone that knows where to start someone. But when I was starting, really going through more of starting with real whole food. That's a big thing. We get really confused sometimes as what's healthy. This is gluten-free, if it says this, and it's still packaged processed garbage that really, your body doesn't recognize, and it's not providing a lot of nutrition, then it's still processed food. So getting to really whole foods first is one of the biggest steps. And then we can go through a removal protocol. And the best thing to do is to work with a coach or somebody that knows what they're doing to kind of help you assess that process. So I removed a lot of foods, and then I went through a reintroduction phase, and I did it for a prolonged period of time. And when I reintroduced certain things, I saw my body react unkindly to certain foods that were seemingly very healthy, foods that back when I was a vegetarian, I relied on.
Such as what? What wasn't working?
Well, like for me, there were things like beans and legumes my body hated. There's a few that I can do if they're prepared right, but really it really doesn't like them. And back when I was vegetarian, I relied very heavily on that. Corn, same thing, not a big fan. Peanuts, which is actually a legume too.
Right.
It's not a nut. So some of those things I was like, whoa, like I was surprised how much my body reacted to corn, and it makes sense now. I mean, we could go on a tangent all day long about what is sprayed on corn crops and things like that. That plays into all this, but just to make it simple, so when I reintroduced some of these foods one at a time, spread apart, I was able to see how my body reacted, and I was able to identify the reactivity. Because what happens is we are react really poorly, but we can't see it and we don't know it's happening. So we just keep doing it until it exacerbates. And now we're seeing people go in, have full blown severe food allergies left and right now that they were not born with, like full blown anaphylactic shock level food allergies that they didn't have a lot of their upbringing, and it's turning into that. And what we can put together is kind of because the body just keeps being it keeps being put in this state of toxicity to things it's intolerant of until it just gives up.
Right. And it's just so inflamed, right? Then of course everything's just, your body's just on high alert and chronically inflamed. Yeah.
Yep. And it's in a state of stress in that way.
Yeah.
So you can't, the rest and digest phase, the phase where your body is restoring, where it's replenishing, because it wants to do that for you. But that can't happen when it's dealing with so many things at one time. It's gonna have a really hard time doing that job. And the body's strong. If people realize like how much garbage we put our bodies through, they, like what the body's meant to do versus how we live, they would actually have a lot more appreciation for how much their body has fought just to get them where they are right now, to keep them from the severity that could be them today, and to give us a second chance.
For sure. Yeah, no, I think it's such a good point. I think because when people get to a state of just having so many health issues, you get a little overwhelmed, but going to a coach, and then it is kind of whittling back, like, okay, let's get down to the core, the basics, and then start to really listen to your body. That's another thing that our culture's never trained us to do. We haven't trained to like sit and like listen to your gut, like what is it, you just ate some dairy, like, and that gurgling noise, that gas, that's not normal, right? Your body's obviously not processing it very well. So, and each person to their own. Like, I've been seeing a naturopath for so long, and she's like, I used to have kombucha and tofu and like all of this stuff, and some of the fermented food is good to a point, but some people can't handle it as much as others. And so there is no one fix all. I think it's really like working with someone that kind of knows the process and can hold you accountable to making sure you're not sneaking the cookie that's going to throw everything out of whack, but can also just really coach you through like becoming in a line and listening to yourself, rather than going to a doctor and getting the pill or giving your power over to the doctors, right? Like, it's just such a beautiful process that we can do, is to come back to yourselves and be like, this is my gut. Like, how do I nurture myself for better health? So,
well, and I agree with you, Jem. And what, we're getting to a place in like a day and age where people are starting to realize that even if they don't want to, I mean, we're very accustomed to going to someone else to tell us what is wrong with our own body, right? But ask all the people who are walking away suffering with no answers. We have no choice but to be a part of our own healing journey and a part of our own answer finding. And with the kind of time that even conventional medicine doctors can put into people, it's a very short window of time. There's no possible way that they can adequately assess the entirety of your body, even if they want to, in a 15-minute or less conversation. This is something that, we need to all have personal responsibility for. Even if you're not on the health nut train and ready to start juicing, you know what I mean? You still have to start learning to listen to your body so that you can communicate effectively with your practitioners, so you can seek second opinions, so that you can put things together, because nobody knows you like you. So yeah, we need to stop giving over our power over our bodies and our ability to listen to our bodies and know what's up with our bodies. It goes for us and our kids. It's our responsibility to do that, and that's how we make good decisions for ourselves and for our children.
Yeah. Well, and that kind of almost segues perfectly into, I mean, the times that we're in right now. Like there is a lot of angst in the world, and rightly so. This pandemic, COVID-19, people don't, of course it came out of nowhere, and then people, all of the shelves of the junk food that lasts a long time are gone. But really when we're in a pandemic, right, or for me, I've really found a lot of comfort in being like, I can focus on my family's health, immunity boosting, and that comes from, for us, eating real food specifically and taking care of our gut health. So what are your kind of thoughts on that, and as you've seen, you know, the last couple of months unfold?
Mhm. Yeah. So as far as my, you know, my PC response to that question, uh, you know, what is unfortunate and empowering. What's unfortunate is that I think it's really shed light on how individuals have lost faith in their own bodies, and how we don't believe that our body is strong. We don't believe it has power. We don't believe it can fight for us. We don't believe we have an immune system that can kick butt. We don't believe in those things. And unfortunately, when people got scared, and what's being taught to everyone is just run and hide and run and hide. Cover up with a mask, hide inside your house, don't go anywhere, make sure you have food. So, you know, you have people locking down, drinking alcohol, feeding their kids massive amounts of sugar, doing all these things consistently to deplete the immune system, because we're not talking about the elephant in the room, that is, our health is a direct reflection of our choices. It's not always easy to make a choice that's going to suit you in the long run. It is damn hard to decide to rise up against, to get healthy. Food is a drug, and we all struggle with it. Us coaches are probably here because we have struggled with it in so many different ways. We can empathize with people because we know what it's like. I was a very, very overweight kid. I was overweight for half of my life at least, you know? So I totally get all that. But there comes a point of responsibility where if we don't take responsibility, then it's just like going into a doctor or something and saying, hey, save me. Hey, tell me what's wrong with me. No, we need to listen to our own bodies. We need to strengthen our own bodies, and we need to do that regardless of how anyone feels, the hows or the whys or anything about the pandemic. Regardless of that, we have no choice but to strengthen our own immune system. We can't hide from germs forever. If it's not this, it'll be something else. You know, there's people that are severely impacted by the flu, deadly. And so it just comes down really to our own bodies. We're seeing this in a virus, but I would hope that the blessing in this, the fear of the virus, if it can inspire people to really take responsibility and build their immune systems and build their bodies, one, they're going to have a better quality of life, and two, we're going to see rates of every other condition and disease and ailment go down dramatically. Right. If we do this the right way.
Yeah.
If we don't, if we just wait for someone else, whether or not you're for or against vaccines, if we just wait for someone to give us a vaccine and continue on the lifestyle that we've had to deplete our immunity, then we're just waiting for something else, whether it's a pandemic or whether it's, you know, a personal disease or something that we're going to suffer with. And you know how we're in this because we don't want to see anybody succumb to that stuff.
No, exactly. And I think that's, even right now, does this timing make the most sense for me to kind of dive into this? But I'm like, I can't, like you said, we've been through struggles ourselves and we've come out through them. For me, I think it was between gut health and mindset, and just being like, if I'm not going to be my own best friend and like advocate for myself, who is? That's not fair to put on anyone else. And I did that for a lot of years, go to doctors and expect them to have the magic bullet for me. And I think this is the time where for some people things have slowed down a little bit, or even with all the craziness, to like find those calm moments to question, like, what isn't feeling right? How powerful would it feel to know that you were putting food in your body that was really strengthening yourself in a way that was like, okay, immune system, whatever's coming our way, like we're doing the best that we can do. So I think you're totally right. And just, this is a time for all of us to just look and be empowered. Like, this is an opportunity. It is a challenge, but it's an opportunity to become our best selves, which can mean so many things, from like even just great skin to being more flexible to more clear mind, whatever that is. So having a coach to really help you chip away at what isn't working and where there can be just lighter sensations for you in your life to just live a more vibrant version of yourself, right? Which of course is my thing, vibrant living. So yeah, I love it. Gosh, gut health, we could just talk about all day. I think that's what I said on the beginning of this. And like, I know, so Britt, you're pregnant right now, right? When are you due again?
In a month.
In a month. Yes. So
Yeah.
Our next one will have to be all about this, and with kids and giving birth and how
giving birth during a pandemic.
Oh gosh, yes.
The plan is home birth. The other two have been at home, so this is a plan for her too. So God willing, we will do that again.
Yes, you're ready. Of course, you're totally ready. So I just want to wrap up with some kind of random questions, just because they're fun. So, what's your favorite snack?
That is so subjective. And I know when you like prompted that before too, and I was like, what the heck am I going to say to her? Like, for real? Or, berries, I think, are probably my number one. Like, I can't, and like, okay, tidbit, berries, if they're not organic, are just loaded with pesticides. They're something you should absolutely buy organic. And they're already so dang expensive that I seriously, during this pregnancy, I could go broke. Like, if I should have a berry farm. Like, that's just gotta be in the works for the future.
I hear you. Yes. And are you reading a book right now? I know you're also trying to like juggle 5 children. So what are you reading?
The 5 a.m. Club by Robin Sharma, I think, if I say that right. It's really good. And I've adapted this 5 to 8 ritual routine now, and in that time frame there's a spot for personal development where I fit in reading. So of all the months that have gone by lately, I used to read all the time. I mean, long before coaching, long before anything. I'm a personal development freak. So health and wellness, just mindset, all that kind of stuff, nonfiction all the way. And I'd always read. Well, then it was like we got to this place where life got so crazy. We got locked down with 5 kids. We're just in survival mode of work and parent. And I'm like, I never have time to read anymore. This is ridiculous. And so what's ironic is by adopting the routine that's somewhat like what I'm reading in this book I'm reading, I'm actually finishing books. Like, I've got a list, like, okay, then next I do this, next. And it's like 20 to 30 minutes of reading in the morning, but I'm up at 5 doing this stuff. And I feel so accomplished doing it. Like, it's like my growth pieces get put in there. I have some productivity with work and stuff. It starts out with like meditation and motivation, and it's just completely changed, everything. So it's a really cool book. And he wrote it. I was adopting this stuff like when I just started his book, and I didn't really know what was in it yet. Right. But he wrote it in like a storytelling, almost fictional way, but to like teach principles. So it was a really different way compared to most personal development. So it's kind of different for me, but it's been really enjoyable, and it's cool.
And life-changing by the sounds of it. Perfect.
Yeah, it's amazing what those 3 hours do for your life. Like, amazing. Especially for people if they're like, they have kids or they have a 9-to-5 job and they're trying to build a dream on the side or do something else like that. Those are your power hours. Like, you can go on with the rest of your day and be like, I've gotten a step further every single day, Monday through Friday or whatever, in this direction of what I want. Like, that's a big deal.
Yeah, no, for sure. Oh, fabulous. Yeah. Well, how do we find you, Britt? Where do people find you online?
So the best place, I mean, you can find me on Facebook. It's going to be under Brittney Oliver, but you can find me on Instagram at Buddha Belly Coach is my handle. For the school, it's Gut Health School. You can find more about the school at guthealthschool.com. And you can go find out more about my personal site, which is just more about, gut health and mindset and stuff at buddhabellycoach.com.
Yeah, awesome. And I will just link all that to our notes as well after this. So thanks so much again for being a part of this. You're the greatest.
I wouldn't miss it.
Take care.
Awesome. I thrive on a meaningful conversation. Thanks to you for listening to my chat with Brittney Prendergast of Holistic Wellness Coaching Academy. As I continue on this journey of discovery and holistic healing, I hope you join me as I get to know more awesome, inspiring people in this Inland West region. You can find me at gemmaputty.com or on Instagram or Facebook at Vibrant Living with Gemma. I'd love to hear from you, sending all the love, light, and vibrancy. Until next time, thanks again.